G'day, it's Nick here, and this is Custard, our short-beaked echidna. And in today's video, we want to share with you 10 facts that I think you didn't know about echidnas. Stick around, guys. Fact number 1 is that there's actually several different species of echidna. Custard here is what we call a short-beaked echidna, and it's the only species we find here in Australia. They're found pretty much all over Australia as well as parts of Papua New Guinea. But once you do head to New Guinea, you've actually got 3 species of long-beaked echidna. You've got the Attenborough's long-beaked echidna, of course named after Sir David Attenborough himself. You've got the Western long-beaked echidna, and then you've got the Eastern long-beaked echidna, who actually has 4 different subspecies found throughout the island. Here in Australia, while we've only got the 1 species, our short-beaked echidna actually breaks into 5 different subspecies around the country. So between species and subspecies, there's actually a fair number of different types or species or subspecies of echidnas. Number 2 is that the short-beaked echidna is actually Australia's most widely distributed mammal. Now, you might be surprised to think this. People think of Australian mammals as things like kangaroos and koalas. But while those animals are certainly iconic, koalas are basically limited to the east coast. Kangaroos are found over most of Australia, but not 1 species. There's several species of kangaroos. The echidna is actually the only mammal that is found everywhere from the tropics of Cape York, the deserts of Uluru, to snow-capped mountains in Kosciuszko National Park. In fact, it's quite possible that this is the most widely distributed terrestrial animal of everything we have in Australia, but definitely our most widely distributed mammal. So there's no animal that's found in the range of environments that the short-beaked echidna is. Fact number 3 is that the echidna's closest living relative today is the platypus. In fact, fossils indicate that echidnas evolved from an aquatic platypus-like ancestor about 66 million years ago, with the short-beaked echidna that we know today having evolved about 15 million years ago. Now, these 2 animals being in the same group, what we call the last of the monotremata or monotremes, share a few things in common. These are the only mammals on Earth today that lay eggs, echidnas and platypuses. They still have their babies hatch and they feed them milk like all other mammals, but they both lack nipples. They basically ooze milk out a patch where nipples would later on evolve in other animals. They've both got low body temperatures, but between laying eggs, lacking nipples, these guys are really unique, and there's traits that echidnas share in common with platypuses. Fact number 4 is that echidnas have the ability to detect electricity using their snouts. Now, this is another trait that they've inherited from their platypus-like ancestors. You see, the platypus, he relies on this heavily for a living. They hunt underwater with their eyes closed, and platypuses have up to 40,000 little electroreceptors in their bills. Echidnas today have about 2,000, but it still gives them the ability, as they're sticking their nose in all the dirt and snuffling around, to detect the electrical currents produced by bugs and insects as they wiggle around down there. So thanks to their platypus ancestors, these guys have the ability to detect electricity coming from their prey. Fact number 5 is that all these spines on Custard here are actually modified hair. Their spines are made out of hair. You see, their spines are made out of keratin, same substance as our hair is. And keratin is a surprisingly adaptable substance. Not only do some animals use it to make spines, like echidnas, porcupines, and hedgehogs, who are all completely unrelated, but keratin's also used to make everything from reptile scales, birds' feathers, to a rhinoceros's horn. So yeah, this guy's spines are made out of hair. Now, he doesn't just have spines, of course. Throughout his body, he's got regular hair as well, which is there to keep him warm, to insulate him. Now, in different parts of the country, the amount of this extra hair changes depending on how warm or cold it is. If you go up north, there's a lot more spines and a lot less hair. You can see them like this. Once you go down to the bottom of Tasmania, their hair is so long that you can barely see the spines. They're like a little pin cushion, just little pins sticking out. So yeah, their spines are made out of hair. Fact number 6 is that the echidna kind of lost its name, technically. You see, there's dozens and dozens of indigenous names for echidnas for obvious reasons. Those people have lived with these guys for a very, very long time. But when Europeans arrived in Australia, they really didn't know what to call them. The first scientific name given to the echidna actually lumped them in with the giant anteaters of South America, who they are totally unrelated to. Once we realised this relationship between echidnas and platypuses, they were briefly put in the genus Ornithorhynchus, which made them a group in the platypuses. Now, later on, we realised that, yes, they're related to platypuses, but 66 million years is a long time to not be related to each other, so they gave them their own group, and that is where the name echidna came in. Now, the word echidna traces back to a Greek mythological creature who was half woman, half reptile. And a mammal with fur that lays eggs like a reptile has a low body temperature, the name kind of made sense. The problem is, sometime later, biologists realised that this name, echidna, was already given to a species of fish. So that name got taken away from the echidna and they were renamed tachyglossus, which basically means fast tongue, and that is their scientific name today. However, because people had already been calling them echidnas, the name literally stuck. So we know them as echidnas, even though formally echidna refers to a fish and tachyglossus remains their scientific name today. Fact number 7 is that the echidna has a maximum speed of about 2.3 kilometers an hour. They're not very fast. Now, that is about 1.5 miles an hour for those of you still living in the 18th century. But basically, it makes sense. They don't need to be fast. You can imagine with an armor of spikes like this, there's not too many things that are going to eat them. On top of that, they can dig down in only a couple of seconds, so that's all that's above the surface is all these sharp quills. So they don't need to outrun predators. They also live off things like termites and ants. So while 2 kilometers an hour is not very quick, it's quicker than most ants and termites. So they don't need to be quick. Now, when I say 2.5 kilometers an hour, 2.3 kilometers an hour, that is their maximum speed. The vast majority of their day is spent waddling around at a more leisurely pace of 1 kilometer an hour. So echidnas are very cool, but they live life in the slow lane. They take their time. They're not very quick animals. Fact number 8 is that echidnas might actually dream. Now, we say might because it's not like we can ask him what he dreamt about last night, but studies have shown that echidnas go through the cycle or the process of what we call REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement in your sleep, basically. And it's the same kind of sleep that we know is associated with dreaming in human beings and most likely associated with dreaming in other animals like dogs and things like this. Interestingly though, we've only been able to see that these guys experience this REM sleep at around 25 degrees. So yes, they probably or possibly dream, but only when the temperature is actually right. What they dream about though, who knows? But echidnas might actually have dreams. Fact number 9 is that the echidna can live as long as 50 years. Now, this is a long time, especially for an animal this size. It's about twice the length of the longest lived marsupials. It's 3 times the length of its closest living cousin, the platypus, and it's a lot longer than a lot of similar sized placental mammals. So they live a long time. Now, how they do this remains a bit of a mystery, but the 2 main theories is that their low metabolic rate, the fact that they have a cool body temperature, they have a slow lifestyle, certainly means that they age slowly because they do everything slowly. On top of that, there's some evidence that these guys have an ability within their cells to basically compensate for and protect themselves from damage on a cellular level. So who knows? These guys might just have the cure to aging, but echidnas live a very long time. And fact number 10 is that echidnas are what we call ecosystem engineers. Now, an ecosystem engineer is defined as an organism that creates, alters, or maintains a habitat. Now, these guys do this by their ability to dig. A single echidna will move about 200 cubic meters of soil every single year. Over the course of their lifetime, that's about 2.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of dirt. Now, doing this is an important part of the ecosystem. It turns over the soil. It reincorporates things like leaf matter into the soil to break down, return nutrients. It increases water penetration into the soil, stops things like runoff, and it improves things like germination for the plants. So it's an important part of the ecosystem. Now, historically, there's a lot of animals that would have done this, but as things like bandicoots and bedongs and potoroos disappear from large sections of Australia thanks to cats and foxes, there's less and less animals that fill this role, making the echidna's role in the ecosystem as important as it ever has been. So there you have it, guys. That's 10 cool facts about echidnas that I think you guys didn't know. Down in the comments, maybe let me know, which facts did you know, what facts are new to you, what cool echidna facts do you think should have gone in there in place. But on top of that, I'd like to say that Custard here is actually a new member to the team here at Wicked Wildlife. So recently we've had to build an enclosure from scratch for him. So also let us know, would you like to see how we go on about building an echidna enclosure here at Wicked Wildlife HQ? Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching this far. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, this video is brought to you by our wonderful supporters on Patreon. Their contributions make looking after our animals and producing these videos possible. But other than that, guys, thank you for watching. See you next time. Be nice to wildlife. Have a good one and take care.